Welcome to the Kung Fu Mama Show. Today we have a very special guest, Mr. Merrick Rosenberg. He is a personality expert and an award-winning author of 3 books, Taking Flight, The Chameleon, and Personality Wins. And all these books have to do with stepping into the power of your personality. This applies to Fortune 100 companies. This also applies to parents. So I would love to hear what you have to say. Welcome to the show, Merrick. How are you today?
Very good. Thank you so much for having me.
We're so excited to have you. And I love your background here. You've got 4 birds here. So please tell us, okay, when and why did you start working with personalities? And what does this have to do with birds?
So I started one of the first team building companies in the United States back in 1991. And it didn't take very long to realize that a lot of the issues that people on teams were having, they were based on personality conflicts. And so I learned about personality styles back in 94. I was using the DISC model, which is a very popular assessment and tool and model of personality. And I used it for a long time, but the problem was that it just wasn't sticking. People didn't remember the letters. And I would go back a few months later and they'd be like, which style is the D again? Wait, what's the I? And I was like, all right, we've got to reinvent this. We've got to make it simple. And the birds flew into my conscious awareness and it changed everything. And it allowed me to create a system that was just so easy. You could teach it to somebody in moments and they remember it.
Okay, great. So can you tell us what there's 4, is that correct?
Yes.
So tell us what these 4 personality styles are.
So we'll start off with the eagle. Eagles, like when you start with them, they are very confident. They like to be in charge. They are direct. They're very assertive. You know what they're thinking. They call it like it is. They fly at 10,000 feet because they're visionary and big picture. And then we've got the parrots. If you've ever been in a forest filled with parrots, you know it's loud. You can't hear anything else because they're talkative. They're social. They're very, in terms of people, they're optimistic. They are enthusiastic and motivational. Then you've got doves. Doves are the symbol of world peace and harmony and compassion and caring. So people who have the dove style are very empathetic and they really care about others. And the owl, very logical, analytical, detail-oriented, and accurate. So 4 styles, 4 birds, it makes it easy. We're not just one of them, of course. We're a combination of all 4, but there's probably 1 or 2 which are really fundamentally core to who you are.
That makes a lot of sense. And it is very simple. I mean, just based on which birds that you chose, I immediately understood what you're talking about. So how early, I guess, if you pertain this to parents, how early can parents know what their kid's style is? And how would that be important?
Yeah, very, very quickly. Even as babies, I have 2 boys, and even when they were very little, I have one boy who's a parrot, and one of my sons is the owl. And my parrot child was always laughing and smiling, and whatever you handed him, he was happy to play with. And you would hand something to my owl child, and he would take it and he would look at it and try to analyze it. Even as a baby, he had to have the blanket on him in a very specific way. If you handed him a cookie and he thought it was upside down, he would take it upside down and turn it the right way. You hand something to a parrot, they're like, cookie, sounds good to me. So even when they're very little, even under a year, you can start to see their style emerge.
Okay, so how can we use that? How can parents use that understanding their style to be better parents?
Well, if you imagine what happens with parents, and this happens with everybody, is that we impose our personality on others. So if I'm an eagle, I believe that you should be assertive and direct and tell people what you want and stand in your power. But what if you have a dove child and you're sending this message? You got to fight for what you want. You've got to take charge and tell people what your desires are. And the dove child just is like, I just want to play with my friend. I just want to talk to someone. And the message that eagle parent is sending is, you should be more like me. Because if you were more like me, then I would love you. Then I would value you. but you're not like me. So we're going to try to change you and get you to be more assertive because that's what you need to be in this world. And this happens with all of the styles. You can have a dove parent who's talking to an eagle child and they're saying, you need to be more sensitive, more compassionate, more caring. And you're trying to change them into someone who they're not. And when we do that, we send a message that who they are is not okay. And that's a horrible message for parents to send because it creates issues for people because then they grow up thinking that they're not okay. And we have to be careful not to impose our personality on our kids.
Can you give us some tips on how to do that? Say if you're an eagle parent with a dove child and vice versa.
Sure. So if you're parenting a dove, and it could be any style, you've got to talk to them in a very soft, compassionate, caring way. Imagine raising a voice to a dove child. They burst out in tears. My sister is the dove. And I remember when I was a kid, my sister always behaved. She never wanted to get in trouble because she's the dove. She wants her parents to be happy. And one day she did one thing and my father raised his voice slightly, bursts into tears. And he's like, what is this? Merrick never cries when I correct him. What's happening? And it's because with a dove, you have to soften your words. But if you soften your words to an eagle, they may not hear you. You've got to be direct and tell them what you want to do and make sure you're very clear and assertive with them, or they may disregard you because even as a child, an eagle will believe they are in charge. They believe they rule this home. They could be 8 years old and they think they're in charge of the house. Now, for parrots, you've got to be enthusiastic. Talk to them with excitement and energy. With owls, you've got to provide detail. But it's all about thinking about who am I talking to and adjusting your communication to that person.
So do you find it hard for parents? Do you actually coach or talk to parents about this on how to change their personality that way?
It's funny is my world tends to be going into companies, speaking at conferences, talking about how to apply the styles in your business world. And yet every time after I speak at an event, people walk up to me. They don't have questions about being a leader or how to work in the workplace. They have questions about their kids and their spouse. I answer more questions about, okay, I have this kid. I don't know what to do with them. And so I spend a lot of time actually talking to people about their children. And it's really powerful because we're raising that generation. We have to really honor who they are.
So you mentioned that obviously we can't change their personality, right? So if they're a dove, they're a dove, like no matter what. Is that correct?
You're not changing people. One of my sons is the parrot. One is the owl. My parrot is the daredevil risk taker. There is nothing I could have done to have changed that. My owl is the engineer. There is nothing I could have done that changed that. I had this great video that I recorded when he was graduating from kindergarten. He was 6 years old. And I asked him, I said, so you just graduated from kindergarten. What do you want to do when you grow up? I thought this would be a great video. And he said to me, I want to make things. I want to understand how things work. And I want to make things. Wow. I have a video when he graduated from high school. And I said to him, hey, buddy, you just graduated from high school. What do you want to do with your life? He goes, I want to make things. I want to understand the world, see how things work and create new things.
Amazing.
There's nothing I could have done that would have changed that. There's hardwiring there. And we have to accept that whoever they are, they will find a path that is right for them.
I know you mentioned earlier about mixing personalities. Does that make any sense? So you can also be both or two different bird types?
That's right. My style, I'm a parrot with a secondary eagle. So parrots are very outgoing. Eagles are results oriented. If you combine it, parrot eagles tend to be energetic, but they want to achieve goals. If you combine the dove and the owl, they're both more soft-spoken, more reserved. They tend to be their perfectionists because that dove is very patient and the owl wants things done right. If you're willing to take your time to do something right, you become the perfectionist. So we can combine any of the styles and it forms who we are. But you're right, we're not just one of them. We're a combination of all of them.
And is there ways for parents to say, get their maybe dove child to be less shy to get a more outgoing or?
There is, but remember, when we do that, we have to be careful that
Hmm.
we're not sending the message that who you are isn't going to be successful in life, or who you are
Right.
isn't valued. So
Hmm.
sure, but you have to maybe give them little moments where maybe they talk to the server in the restaurant where they were
Hmm.
maybe uncomfortable doing that, where
Hmm.
you're not putting them on stage in front of several hundred people as
Right.
their first chance to get out there and be more assertive talking to people. You give them these small opportunities to develop a new skill set, and that's great. We can stretch people. We just have to be careful we're not stretching them too much.
Hmm. I see. Okay, so in addition to your personality books, you're also writing a children's book, is that right?
I am. I just finished a children's book. It will be out in about a month or two. It's not exactly sure of the exact publication date, but it is coming soon. And it really came from just so many parents saying to me, "You need to write something for children. There's nothing like this that explains personality, which can be very complicated. That we explain it to kids in a very simple way." So I wrote a fun fable. It's a fun story about the eagle kingdom and the parrot kingdom and the dove kingdom and the owl kingdom, and how they have to work together. The evil Vulturans are coming. So they have to save the world, and they have to understand each other and learn about the styles to do it. So it's a lot of fun. I love the fact that they're learning along the way, and they don't even realize that they're learning about the styles and the birds and how to use it in their life.
I feel like parents could also learn from this children's book that you're writing as well.
I would love to have parents read it to their children, because the parents need to learn about themselves too. So I think it will be a great conversation between parents and children, where parents get to talk about, so which bird do you think you are? It's called Which Bird Are You? So nice and simple. And that's the question: which bird are you? And how do you use your style and step into the power of that style?
Okay, could you share us with any pro tips for parents you have about personalities?
I, the first step as a parent is you have to understand your own style. So you have to ask yourself, which bird am I? Because
Hmm.
if you don't understand your style, you're destined to impose it on your children. So you've got to know yourself first. Then you ask yourself, okay, I know this is my style. What style is my child? And what do they need from me? How can I support them so that I'm honoring them and not trying to change them into the best version of me? I'm helping them to become the best version of themselves. And so when we do that, we grow healthy and happy children, as opposed to children that feel like I'm not enough or I'm not good enough.
I see. Wonderful. And also, I'd like to end the note is, do you have any special advice that you have given to a different parent? And do you have any stories that you have had, like that you were, that were interesting that you had in your experience in
Sure.
coaching parents?
I remember watching a father one day, and his son was playing sports, and the father was clearly an eagle. You can see he had that confident, assertive style, and I could look at his son and I could see he is a dove. He's quiet, he's soft spoken, he's more reserved. But the father is yelling at the child, like, get in there, fight for the ball. You can do it. And you can see the look on the kid's face, like looking at his dad, like, I don't really want to. It's not comfortable for me. And I just wanted to walk over to the father and say, do you understand how you're impacting your child? You're sending this message that your child needs to be someone who he's not. And how's that going to impact him? So I
Mm,
see that all the time. Parents, the way they guide their children is they seem like they're trying to help them, but what they're really doing is sending messages that the child needs to change who they are. And I see it with teachers. Teachers do the same thing. Teachers have such a profound impact on children, and sometimes they impose their style on children as well. So we have to be careful. We've got to really honor who our kids are and not try to change them into us.
that's amazing. I love that. I love that. I'm sure a lot of parents and teachers and everybody could learn from these personality birds that you've been talking about. So thank
Yeah.
you.
Do you know? Well, do you know what your kids are, as you think about the bird styles from our conversation? What do you think?
I think that my oldest one is definitely an eagle.
A boy or girl?
She's a girl. She's a girl.
Okay. So does she think she's in charge and tells you what to do, and you tell her, and she does not want to listen?
Oh yeah, definitely. And
That's
I feel
an
like
eagle.
I'm definitely the dove that is just like not being heard.
Welcome to the world of the birds. How about your other child?
My other child, I'm not really sure. I think she's a little bit of a parrot, actually. I mean, she's only 3 months old.
Okay.
She's
Does she
very
smile
talkative.
a lot? Seemingly very happy.
Yes.
Yeah, that's you're going to see that is the parrot child. We always talked about when kids are little, we want to play the quiet game. Like, can you just be quiet for 5 minutes? Parrots cannot play the quiet game. They're going to she's going to talk and talk and talk. So be ready.
Oh, how about what do you think about their dynamics when they grow up? An eagle growing up with a parrot.
Yeah, it's always fun to watch how two siblings, brothers or sisters, get along. And you're going to probably see that the eagle child she'll probably be very protective when out of the house, like, hey, this is my kid sister, don't bother her. But when they're together, she's going to want to win every game they play. and if she thinks she's losing, she's going to say, I'm done, so she can't lose, or she'll try to change the rules, and it's going to probably drive the parrot child crazy.
Nice. I could totally see that. I feel like oddly that you mentioned, so the personality, the parent, right? I feel like my husband, he's an eagle, but when he talks to our daughter, he's a dove.
because she is out eagling him. This is exactly, and by the way, this is what happens. Parrots and doves tend to get married most often.
Uh-huh.
I'm sorry, eagles and doves tend to get married most often, which is what you have, and parrots and owls tend to get married most often. So it makes it fun. So I think you're going to see the styles play out as you watch your children grow.
Yes, definitely. It'll be very interesting. I'm not really sure. Moving forward if I will move into this eagle mode to talk to my daughter.
You may need some eagle as she becomes a teenager. You may need some eagle.
Yeah, I definitely will need some eagle. So I'll have to put on my Kung Fu Mama persona.
Yes.
You mentioned your martial arts background.
Yes. Yeah, I had my own karate class for about 30 years. So I taught martial arts. And you can definitely see the styles play out in martial arts, different instructors. You can see the eagle instructors. They're tough. They work you hard.
Yeah.
The dove, they're in like the hard style, maybe like Kung Fu or, sparring and fighting. Whereas like Tai Chi is the dove, very soft. Your owl instructors want your forms to be perfect. It's got to be exact. They're correcting the most tiny little nuance of your form. And the parrots make it fun. They do the flashy forms and they make it exciting. So you can actually see the birds play out in martial arts. It's pretty fascinating.
That is quite interesting. So do you coach other coaches as well, or you have one?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, what we do is my organization, we certify trainers to train people in their companies, or we certify consultants to use the birds, but we also teach executive coaches on how to incorporate the birds in their coaching practice, but not really martial arts, more of just, business coaching.
Oh, okay. But then you're a martial arts instructor. You're a karate instructor, correct?
Yes.
Oh, but you are the instructor. So, but you've seen other...
I just watched just how other people teach, how even my own class, when my students teach, I see how they have different styles. The parrot instructors want to make it fun for the kids. The eagle instructors are very firm and rigid. The dove instructors are very supportive and they're like, you're doing great. The owl instructors are fixing every little thing. So it's like, you can see it play out. It's the way they teach. It's not just the art itself, though certain arts are more eagle and certain arts are more dove. But it is fascinating to see how different styles the birds play out in them.
Right. So this can be applied to all industries, even martial arts.
Yeah, personality plays out in everything. So I know obviously you practiced Kung Fu for a long time, and it's amazing to watch it. Do you think, which bird do you think that art form really, which of these birds do you think is most like Kung Fu? Is it more of the eagle, parrot, dove, owl? What do you think?
I think it's actually a combination of like the eagle and the owl. Actually, it's a very combination sport, I feel, because you have to be fierce like the eagle, but you have to be soft like the dove. You have to be very particular on what your movements are. You have to be very technical, so like the owl, right?
Yes.
And for the parrot, I do think actually if you should add a little personality to your forms.
Yeah. You make it fun, and it becomes who you are, and that isn't that fascinating? Like that the masters incorporate all four, and they bring it all to life. I call that the chameleon. It's that person who's like flexible and adaptable, and if they are sparring someone and they need to dial up their eagle, they can. But maybe you have a new student, and if you put too much eagle, that just crushes them. And what does that serve? You dial up the dove and you soften it and help them to learn. And so, yeah, you can see the styles play out throughout the martial arts. It's really fascinating.
Wait, so the chameleon is all four? Is that what everyone should strive for? Or
we're striving not to change our personality, but to be able to tap into all four. That you can tap into the right style at the right time. If you need to be the eagle, you be the eagle. If you need to be the dove, you be the dove. And someone who is the chameleon can be adaptable to whatever is needed in the moment.
Amazing. Very cool. That's so cool.
So we could have a whole conversation about the martial arts and how this plays out in the martial arts as instructors, as students, as various styles of martial arts. Personality plays out in everything. So it's fun to apply it in all different walks of life.
So do you go around like, I mean, I feel like it must be second nature to you now that you assess everyone around you.
I do, but there's no judgment in it. I'll shake someone's hand. I'll be like, okay, that's a parrot, or, oh, he's an eagle. It's just that moment of knowing. You can tell almost instantly what somebody's style is. And it makes it fun, actually, because there's no good or bad. It just is what it is. We are who we are.
I see. And your family, who your family is?
My wife is an owl. And so I'm a parrot and she's an owl.
Okay.
And then I have one parrot and one owl, which isn't typical. It doesn't always work out that way, but it does for us. So she understands our owl child very well. Sometimes she looks at me and says, she talks about our parrot, like, why would he do that? And I'll be like, I can tell you exactly what he's thinking. And she'll look at me and say, she's like, really? And I'll be like, I'll call him over. I'm like, were you thinking this? And he'd be like, yeah. Exactly. Because I'm a parrot. I know how he's thinking.
Oh my gosh, that's so interesting. But that actually makes it really work out well for you guys. So you get to, pair one or the other.
Absolutely. But we both understand the style. So we do get it. But I mean, like when I grew up, I have a sister who had a lot of like dove in her, but she also had some owl. My father was an eagle. I'm a parrot. Like we were all very different. So that made it interesting. Now I look back and I'm like, that's why. Now I understand what was happening when I was a kid. But, we didn't understand the styles back then. So you're like, why would he say it like that? Like, that doesn't make sense to me. It's like, oh, because he's an eagle. Now I understand.
Yeah. So, I can totally see that.
Yeah. So it makes it fun. So
that's so funny. Well, it's funny because now I'm like, oh yeah, my mom's an eagle. My mom's definitely an eagle.
Right. See how fast you do it. You can just look at it and say, I get it now. Like, and as a dove, I will bet you when you were younger that you probably had moments where maybe she said something and it was a little too blunt or too direct. And then you burst into tears and you're like, why would she say that to me? That ever have those moments?
Probably when I was much younger.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Later on, you knew, oh, that's her style. That's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I still feel like she's still eagling me.
Right? Absolutely. They can't stop. It's okay though.
Yes, eagling me and my kids.
Yes. Because eagles, they see what needs to be done and they're very assertive in how they tell you. Like, here's what you're going to do. Here's how you raise your kids. Here's how you do it.
Exactly.
So, yep. Yeah. Well, it's a lot of fun. You will see the bird styles playing out in everything you do.
I see. This is one of those podcasts you listen to and then you're just like, oh, everything's changed.
Right. Hopefully that's the goal. That's why I do it, to share this with people so they can look at it, look back and say, now I understand this. And then as you as a parent, you start raising your kids and you're like, I see why they're doing this. And you accept them. Right. As I was saying while we were talking, a lot of parents do try to change their kids and it just doesn't work. You can't change them. Spouses try to do this with each other. That doesn't work either. So we can't try to change our kids. It doesn't work anyway. So we just have to accept them.
Exactly. Yeah. I love how it's kind of like it's the underlying message, really.
Yeah.
And the birds are the front.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the underlying message is that we have to honor people for who they are, and the birds are the tool to do that. There's an expression, a model is a tool for the mind. The birds give you a mental model to think about human behavior, which is obviously infinitely complex. But if we can bring it down to something simple, then we can use it. And it gives even kids. We teach kids the birds all the time. And now that the new book's coming out, really going to be working with children, and it makes it easy. It makes it simple for kids.
Yeah, definitely. Amazing.
So.
Okay, wonderful. So thank you so much for all this wonderful information today.
Thank you so much. And by the way, if people want to know what style their children are, we just released a new kids assessment.
Wonderful.
So you can go to takeflightlearning.com and you can actually see which bird is your child. And there's a profile that they can take. And it's fascinating. It gives them a little report on what's the child's style, how the parents can better parent that child, and then also how teachers can teach and educate that child. So a lot of fun. So very excited to share that with the world, because I think that the first step is self-awareness, and children who understand themselves put themselves on a path to happiness. So hopefully that will impact a lot of children.
That's wonderful. That's exactly what parents need.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you so much for being on the show. How do we find you?
You can go to takeflightlearning.com. My books are available on Amazon. I'm on Twitter, and it's at Merrick R. So it's MERRICKR. And I post something almost every day about the birds. So you get a little dose of bird style wisdom each day.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And don't forget to follow Kung Fu Mama on Facebook, IG, and our YouTube at Starting Sarah Chang. Thanks so much for coming on the show.